On August 22, 2013, in Los Angeles, California, 33-year-old Vanessa Cole seemed like any ordinary real estate agent living the American dream. But what happened on that warm Thursday evening would expose a horrifying secret so twisted that it shook Los Angeles for over a decade. The investigation revealed a DNA breakthrough so disturbing that when the killer was finally caught, even seasoned FBI agents were left speechless. This is the story of the Laurel Canyon murders, a case that proves evil can hide behind the most innocent faces. Stay with us as we uncover every shocking detail of this case that changed Los Angeles forever and left America asking, how well do we really know our neighbors? Vanessa Cole wakes up every morning at 6:45 a.m. sharp. Her alarm plays a soft jazz tune, something she set years ago and never changed. She stretches, slips into her robe, and walks barefoot across the hardwood floors of her two-bedroom apartment in West Hollywood. The smell of fresh eucalyptus from her diffuser fills the air. She brews her usual cup of green tea, opens the blinds, and watches the early Los Angeles sun spill across Laurel Canyon Boulevard. At 33, Vanessa is living what many would call the American dream. She's a successful real estate agent with Cole & Partners, a boutique firm specializing in luxury homes across Beverly Hills, Studio City, and Malibu. Her clients include actors, producers, and tech entrepreneurs. She's known for her charm, her hustle, and her ability to close deals others can't. Vanessa doesn't sell homes, her colleague once said. She sells lifestyles. Her apartment is modest but elegant, white walls, gold accents, and framed prints of vintage Los Angeles. A photo of her and her younger brother, Marcus, sits on the mantel. They're smiling in front of the Griffith Observatory, arms around each other. Marcus is 28, a software engineer in San Francisco. They talk every Sunday without fail. Vanessa's parents, Linda and Charles Cole, live in Pasadena. Charles is a retired firefighter. Linda runs a small flower shop. They raised Vanessa with discipline and warmth. Church on Sundays, family dinners on Wednesdays, and a strong belief in hard work. "You earn your peace," her father always said. Vanessa took that to heart. Her daily routine is precise. She jogs 3 miles through Runyon Canyon, grabs a protein smoothie from Earth Bar, and heads to her office on Sunset Boulevard. Her desk is always organized, client folders stacked, calendar color-coded, and a small cactus named Spike sitting in the corner. She's the kind of woman who remembers birthdays, sends handwritten thank you notes, and never misses a deadline. Vanessa's friends describe her as magnetic. She walks into a room and people notice, says her best friend, Alyssa Grant, a fashion buyer in downtown LA, but she's also the one who'll stay late to help you move or bring soup when you're sick. She's single, but not lonely. Her last relationship ended amicably, a photographer named Jason who moved to New York for work. They still exchange holiday cards. Vanessa believes in love, but she's not chasing it. "I'm building something," she once told Alyssa. "And when the right person comes along, they'll add to it, not distract from it." Her weekends are filled with open houses, yoga classes, and brunch at the butcher, the baker, the cappuccino maker. She loves old movies, especially Hitchcock, and keeps a journal where she writes down one thing she's grateful for every night. On August 22, 2013, she wrote, "Grateful for the sunset over Laurel Canyon. Felt like a painting." She had no idea it would be her last entry. That Thursday started like any other. Vanessa had 2 showings scheduled, one in Brentwood, another in the Hollywood Hills. She wore a navy blazer, white blouse, and her signature gold necklace. Her hair was pulled into a sleek ponytail. She looked polished, professional, and ready to conquer the day. At 9 a.m., she met her client, Dr. Elaine Foster, at a 5-bedroom estate on Tigertail Road. They toured the property, discussed renovations, and wrapped up by 10:30. Vanessa then grabbed a quick coffee from Alfred's on Melrose and headed to her second showing. At 12:15 p.m., she arrived at a hillside property on Outpost Drive. The client, a producer named Greg Stanton, was running late. Vanessa waited in her car, scrolling through emails. Witnesses later recalled seeing her parked there, windows down, music playing softly. Greg arrived at 12:45. They toured the home, discussed pricing, and parted ways around 1:30. Vanessa sent a follow-up email from her phone at 1:42 p.m. That was the last confirmed digital trace of her. Vanessa was expected at a networking mixer in Silver Lake at 6 p.m. She never showed. Alyssa texted her at 6:15, "You coming?" No reply. She called at 6:30. Straight to voicemail. By 8 p.m., Alyssa was worried. Vanessa was never late without notice. She called Marcus. He hadn't heard from her. She called Linda and Charles. They hadn't either. At 9:15 p.m., Alyssa drove to Vanessa's apartment. Her car wasn't in the garage. The lights were off. She knocked. No answer. She called again. Still voicemail. At 10 p.m., Alyssa called 911. Los Angeles Police Department officers arrived at 10:45 p.m. They entered the apartment with Alyssa's help. Nothing appeared out of place. Vanessa's purse was on the counter. Her phone charger was plugged in. Her journal was open on the nightstand. But her phone was missing. So was her car. A bolo was issued for a white 2010 BMW 328i, license plate 7KXG291. Officers canvassed the area, checked local hospitals, and reviewed traffic cameras. No sightings. By midnight, the Cole family was notified. Linda collapsed in tears. Charles clenched his fists. Marcus booked the earliest flight from San Francisco. The next morning, the story hit local news: real estate agent missing in Laurel Canyon. Photos of Vanessa smiling in front of a luxury home flashed across screens. The community mobilized. Flyers were printed. Search parties formed. Social media exploded. But behind the hope, there was fear. Because Vanessa Cole wasn't the kind of woman who disappeared. 2 weeks earlier, Vanessa had mentioned something to Alyssa. A client had made her uncomfortable. He was intense, she said. Kept asking personal questions. Showed up unannounced. She didn't name him. She brushed it off. But Alyssa remembered. And so did the police. Because what started as a missing persons case was about to become something far darker. And the evidence that would crack it wide open was already hiding in plain sight. Thursday, August 22, 2013, began like any other summer day in Los Angeles. The sun rose early, casting golden light across Laurel Canyon's winding streets. Vanessa Cole had already completed 2 property showings by early afternoon. Her last confirmed activity was a follow-up email sent at 1:42 p.m. from her phone. After that, she vanished. At 6 p.m., Vanessa was expected at a networking mixer in Silver Lake. She never arrived. Her best friend, Alyssa Grant, texted her at 6:15, "You coming?" No reply. She called at 6:30. Straight to voicemail. By 7 o'clock, Alyssa was pacing outside the venue, checking her phone every few minutes. Vanessa was never late without notice. At 8 p.m., Alyssa drove to Vanessa's apartment in West Hollywood. Her white BMW wasn't in the garage. The lights were off. She knocked. No answer. She called again. Still voicemail. At 10 p.m., she called 911. At 10:45 p.m., 2 LAPD officers arrived at the apartment. Alyssa let them in. The unit was quiet, clean, undisturbed. Vanessa's purse was on the kitchen counter. Her phone charger was plugged in. Her journal was open on the nightstand. The last entry read, "Grateful for the sunset over Laurel Canyon." Felt like a painting. Her phone was missing. So was her car. The officers filed a missing persons report and issued a BOLO, "Be on the lookout," for a white 2010 BMW 328i, license plate 7KXG291. They canvassed the area, checked local hospitals, and reviewed traffic cameras. No sightings. By midnight, Vanessa's parents, Linda and Charles Cole, were notified. Linda collapsed in tears. Charles clenched his fists. Marcus, Vanessa's younger brother, booked the earliest flight from San Francisco. By Friday morning, the Cole family was gathered at Vanessa's apartment. Linda sat on the couch clutching Vanessa's childhood teddy bear. Charles paced the hallway. Marcus opened Vanessa's laptop, hoping for clues, emails, calendar entries, anything. Alyssa contacted Vanessa's colleagues at Cole and Partners. No one had heard from her. Her last appointment had been with Greg Stanton, a producer looking for a home in the Hollywood Hills. He confirmed they parted ways around 1:30 p.m. She seemed fine, he said. Professional. Focused. Nothing unusual. The LAPD assigned Detective Raymond Ortiz to the case. Ortiz was a seasoned investigator with 22 years on the force. He met the family at the apartment and began his preliminary assessment. "There's no sign of forced entry," he said. "No signs of a struggle. But her phone and car are gone. That's our starting point." At 2:15 p.m. on Friday, a woman named Carla Jenkins called the LAPD tip line. She worked at a boutique on Sunset Boulevard and had seen Vanessa earlier that week. She was with a man, Carla said. Tall, white, maybe mid-30s. He seemed intense. I remember because he kept looking around like he didn't want to be seen. Carla described the man's clothing: gray hoodie, jeans, black boots. She remembered Vanessa looking uncomfortable. She smiled, but it was forced, Carla said. Like she wanted to leave. Detective Ortiz pulled surveillance footage from the boutique. The timestamp matched Carla's account. Vanessa was seen entering the store at 3:12 p.m. on August 20th. The man was behind her. His face was partially obscured by a baseball cap. Ortiz enhanced the footage and ran it through facial recognition. No immediate match. On Saturday morning, a jogger named Ethan Morales was running through Griffith Park when he noticed something strange: a white BMW parked near a trailhead, partially hidden by brush. The car was dusty, the windows fogged. Ethan called it in. LAPD officers arrived within 30 minutes. The license plate matched Vanessa's. The car was locked. No visible damage. Forensics were called to the scene. Inside the car, they found Vanessa's phone under the passenger seat. Her fingerprint was on the screen. The last call was made at 2:03 p.m. on August 22nd, to Alyssa. It never connected. In the trunk, they found a pair of high heels, a real estate folder, and a small bloodstain on the carpet. It was faint, but visible under UV light. Samples were collected and sent to the lab. Detective Ortiz stood at the scene, staring at the car. "She didn't park this," he said. "Someone wanted it found." By Sunday, the story had exploded. Local news ran headlines: "Real estate agent missing in Laurel Canyon." National outlets picked it up. True crime blogs dissected every detail. Social media flooded with theories. Candlelight vigils were held. Churches prayed. Volunteers placed flowers near Griffith Park. The Cole family became symbols of stolen innocence. Linda appeared on television. Her voice trembled. "Vanessa is strong," she said. "She's smart. She wouldn't just disappear. Please, if anyone knows anything, come forward." Charles stood beside her, silent, eyes red. Marcus spoke next. "My sister is everything to me. We need her back." Detective Ortiz expanded the search. He pulled Vanessa's phone records, bank statements, and GPS history. On August 22, her phone pinged near Laurel Canyon at 2:05 p.m. Then it went dark. Ortiz interviewed Greg Stanton again. "Did she mention anyone bothering her?" he asked. Greg hesitated. "She said something about a former client. Creepy guy. Showed up at an open house uninvited. I didn't get a name." Ortiz dug into Vanessa's client history. One name stood out, Travis Reed. He had toured a property with Vanessa in June. No purchase. No follow-up. But he had emailed her repeatedly, asking personal questions, requesting private meetings. Ortiz pulled Reed's file. No criminal record. But something felt off. Ortiz visited Reed's listed address in Echo Park. The building manager said Reed had moved out 2 weeks earlier. "Left in a hurry," he said. "Didn't give notice. Just packed and vanished." Inside the vacated unit, Ortiz found a torn photo of Vanessa, ripped down the middle. In the trash, he found a crumpled flyer from Cole and Partners. On the back, someone had written, "She lied." Ortiz stared at the words. "This isn't random," he said. "This is personal." Back at the lab, the blood sample from Vanessa's trunk came back. It was hers. Ortiz called the Cole family. Linda collapsed. Charles punched the wall. Marcus sat in silence. "She's hurt," Ortiz said. "But we're not giving up." Because what they would find next, buried in the shadows of Laurel Canyon, would change everything. And the man behind it all was closer than anyone realized. By Monday morning, August 26, 2013, the disappearance of Vanessa Cole had officially shifted from a missing persons case to a criminal investigation. The discovery of her abandoned BMW near Griffith Park, the bloodstain in the trunk, and the absence of any contact from Vanessa herself had triggered a full-scale response from the Los Angeles Police Department. Detective Raymond Ortiz, now leading the case, stood in the center of the command room at LAPD's Hollywood Division. The walls were covered in maps, timelines, and photos. Vanessa's smiling face stared back from every angle. Ortiz had worked dozens of high-profile cases, but something about this one felt different. "She didn't vanish," he told his team. "She was taken." The BMW was transported to the LAPD crime lab in downtown Los Angeles. Forensic technician Dana Kim led the examination. She wore gloves, a mask, and a focused expression. Her team began with the trunk. The bloodstain was small but distinct. Under UV light, it glowed in a crescent pattern, suggesting a smear, not a splatter. Samples were collected and sent for DNA analysis. On the carpet, they found a single strand of long brown hair. Vanessa's hair. Inside the glove compartment, they found a torn receipt from a gas station on Sunset Boulevard dated August 22 at 2:17 p.m., just 35 minutes after Vanessa's last confirmed email. Surveillance footage from the station showed a white BMW pulling in. The driver was male. Baseball cap. Gray hoodie. Face obscured. Ortiz enhanced the footage and ran it through facial recognition. No match. But the timestamp was critical. Vanessa's car was being driven by someone else. Ortiz revisited Vanessa's client history. One name kept surfacing, Travis Reed. He had toured a property with Vanessa in June. No purchase. No follow-up. But he had emailed her repeatedly, asking personal questions, requesting private meetings, and showing up uninvited at open houses. Ortiz pulled Reed's file. No criminal record. But his behavior raised red flags. He had moved out of his Echo Park apartment 2 weeks earlier without notice. Inside the vacated unit, police had found a torn photo of Vanessa and a crumpled flyer from Cole and Partners with the words, "She lied," scribbled on the back. Ortiz requested Reed's phone records. With a court order, he obtained cell tower data. On August 22, Reed's phone pinged near Laurel Canyon at 2:05 p.m., the same time Vanessa's phone went dark. Ortiz sat down with Alyssa Grant at the station. She was composed but visibly shaken. "Vanessa mentioned someone bothering her," he said. "Did she give a name?" Alyssa nodded slowly. "Travis. She said he was intense. Showed up at a showing she didn't invite him to. She told him to back off." "Did she report it?" "No. She didn't want drama. She thought he'd go away." Ortiz scribbled notes. "Did she ever mention being followed?" Alyssa hesitated. "Once. She said she saw a car behind her on Laurel Canyon 2 days before she disappeared. Said it felt off." Ortiz circled the date, August 20th. By Tuesday, the case had gone national. CNN ran a segment titled, "Vanishing in Laurel Canyon." Vanessa's face was everywhere: news broadcasts, social media, even digital billboards across Los Angeles. The hashtag Find Vanessa trended for 48 hours. Reporters camped outside Cole and Partners. Clients canceled appointments. The firm issued a statement: "Vanessa Cole is a valued member of our team. We are cooperating fully with law enforcement and praying for her safe return." Linda and Charles Cole appeared on Good Morning America. Linda's voice cracked. "She's our daughter. She's kind. She's strong. Please help us bring her home." Charles sat beside her, silent, jaw clenched. Marcus joined via video call from San Francisco. "We won't stop," he said. "Not until we know what happened." On Wednesday, the DNA results came back. The blood in the trunk matched Vanessa Cole. The strand of hair matched her profile. But there was something else. Under the driver's seat, forensic tech Dana Kim found a partial fingerprint, smudged, but usable. It didn't match Vanessa. It didn't match anyone in her family or known associates. Ortiz ran it through the national database. It matched Travis Reed. Ortiz obtained a warrant and tracked Reed to a motel in Riverside, California, 90 minutes east of Los Angeles. He was staying under a false name. Officers surrounded the building at 3:15 p.m. Reed was arrested without incident. At the station, Ortiz sat across from him in the interrogation room. Reed was calm, detached. "I didn't hurt her," he said. "She lied to me." Ortiz leaned forward. "Your fingerprint is in her car. Your phone was near Laurel Canyon when she vanished. You had motive. You had opportunity." Reed stared at the wall. "She said she'd help me. She said she understood." "Understood what?" Reed didn't answer. Ortiz slammed a photo of Vanessa on the table. "Where is she?" Reed blinked. "She's not far." Ortiz ordered a full search of Reed's motel room. Inside, they found a notebook filled with scribbled entries, obsessions, grievances, fantasies. Vanessa's name appeared 17 times. One entry read, "She walks like she owns the world. But she doesn't know what's coming." In the bathroom, they found a receipt for a hardware store in Glendale. Duct tape, gloves, rope. Ortiz stared at the list. "He planned this," he said. "This wasn't impulse. This was ritual." foreshadowing the horror. Back at the station, Reed requested a lawyer. He stopped talking. Ortiz paced the hallway. "We're close," he said. He knows where she is. But time was running out. And what they would find next, hidden in the hills above Laurel Canyon, would change everything. Because Vanessa Cole wasn't just missing. She was waiting to be found. On the morning of August 29, 2013, 6 days after Vanessa Cole vanished from the streets of Los Angeles, Detective Raymond Ortiz stood on a ridge overlooking Laurel Canyon. The air was dry, the sun already climbing, and the hills were quiet except for the distant hum of traffic on Mulholland Drive. Ortiz had received a tip the night before, an anonymous voicemail with no voice, just GPS coordinates and the sound of heavy breathing. The coordinates pointed to a secluded patch of land near an abandoned water tower, tucked behind a rusted chain-link fence. It was a place few locals visited, overgrown with sagebrush and littered with forgotten debris. Ortiz brought in a search team at first light. They moved slowly, methodically, scanning the terrain with cadaver dogs, drones, and ground-penetrating radar. At 8:17 a.m., Echo, a trained K9, stopped near a thicket of dry brush. He barked once, then sat. His handler marked the spot. Ortiz approached, heart pounding. Beneath the brush, partially buried in loose soil, was a shallow grave. Forensic teams arrived within the hour. The area was sealed off. Media helicopters circled overhead. Ortiz watched silently as technicians unearthed the body. It was wrapped in a gray bedsheet, tied with nylon rope. The sheet was stained, torn, and smelled of mildew. Inside was the body of a woman, bruised, broken, and barely recognizable. Dental records confirmed the identity, Vanessa Cole. She had been found. The news broke by noon. Body of missing real estate agent found in Laurel Canyon. Photos of Vanessa flooded every screen. Her smile, once a symbol of hope, now marked the face of tragedy. Linda Cole collapsed when she heard. Charles punched a hole in the drywall. Marcus sat in silence, staring at the floor. Alyssa screamed. The city mourned. Dr. Elena Ramirez, chief medical examiner for Los Angeles County, led the autopsy. She had seen hundreds of cases, but this one shook her. Vanessa had suffered blunt force trauma to the head, chest, and abdomen. Her wrists showed signs of restraint. Her fingernails were broken, defensive wounds. There were traces of duct tape adhesive on her cheeks and mouth. Time of death was estimated between 3 o'clock and 5 p.m. on August 22, the same day she vanished. Inside her stomach, they found remnants of a protein smoothie, consistent with her usual lunch. Her body showed signs of dehydration, suggesting she had been held for several hours before being killed. Dr. Ramirez's report was chilling. Cause of death, blunt force trauma. Manner of death, homicide. Victim likely endured prolonged psychological stress prior to fatal injuries. Detective Ortiz returned to the motel in Riverside where Travis Reed had been arrested. He re-examined the room with fresh eyes. This time, he noticed a small tear in the carpet near the bed. Beneath it, wedged into the floorboards, was a flash drive. Ortiz handed it to forensic tech Dana Kim. She plugged it in at the lab. Inside were dozens of files, photos, audio recordings, and journal entries. Vanessa's name appeared in nearly every one. There were screenshots of her social media, photos of her apartment, and audio clips of her voice, recorded without her knowledge. One file stood out, a video dated August 22, 2013, 2:58 p.m. It showed Vanessa, bound and gagged, sitting in the back seat of her own car. Her eyes were wide with fear. A voice off camera whispered, "You said you cared. "You lied." Ortiz watched the video in silence. Then he stood up and walked out of the room. On August 30th, Travis Reed was formally charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and unlawful surveillance. His arraignment was scheduled for the following week. The DA's office released a statement. "This was a calculated, premeditated act of violence. We will pursue the maximum penalty under California law." Reed's public defender requested a psychiatric evaluation. Reed remained silent. Ortiz met with the Cole family to deliver the news. Linda wept. Charles nodded. Marcus asked one question: did she suffer? Ortiz hesitated. She fought. The city of Los Angeles responded with grief and outrage. A memorial was held at Griffith Park. Hundreds attended: friends, colleagues, clients, strangers. Candles lined the trail where her car had been found. Photos of Vanessa were placed on easels. Her journal was read aloud. Alyssa spoke last. "Vanessa was light," she said. "She was grace. She was strength. And she deserved better." Cole and Partners established the Vanessa Cole Foundation, dedicated to protecting women in real estate. The firm changed its safety protocols. GPS tracking, panic buttons, and mandatory check-ins became standard. The LAPD launched a task force to investigate stalking-related crimes. Ortiz was promoted to lead it. As September turned to October, the case moved toward trial. Prosecutors built their timeline. August 22, 1:42 p.m., Vanessa sends final email. 2:03 p.m., she attempts a call to Alyssa. 2:17 p.m., her car is seen at a gas station, driven by Reed. 2:58 p.m., video shows Vanessa bound in her car. 3:30 to 5 p.m., estimated time of death. August 29th, her body is recovered. The flash drive, the fingerprint, the blood, the video, all pointed to Reed. But he refused to speak. Ortiz stared at the case file. He wanted control, he said. And when she took it back, he punished her. The evidence they found next will change everything you think you know about this case. But before we reveal what shocked even veteran detectives, make sure you're subscribed to Cold Case, True Crime Stories, because what happens next will leave you questioning everything. Hit that subscribe button now, you won't want to miss this. Back at the lab, Dana Kim was analyzing the final file on the flash drive. It was encrypted. She cracked it using forensic software. Inside was a folder labeled Final Gift. It contained a map. A hand-drawn sketch of Laurel Canyon. A red X marked a second location. Ortiz stared at it. "This isn't over," he said. Because what they would find next, buried deeper in the hills, would reveal a truth so disturbing, it would shake Los Angeles to its core. And Vanessa Cole's story was only the beginning. Travis Reed sat in a windowless cell at the Los Angeles County Jail, staring at the concrete wall. He hadn't spoken since his arrest. No confession. No emotion. Just silence. But behind that silence, investigators believed, was a mind twisted by obsession, rejection, and a need for control. Detective Raymond Ortiz had seen killers before: gang enforcers, domestic abusers, even contract hitmen. But Reed was different. He wasn't driven by rage, Ortiz said. He was driven by fantasy. A fantasy that collapsed when Vanessa said no. Born in 1982 in San Diego, California, Travis Reed grew up in a quiet suburb near Chula Vista. His father, Gerald Reed, was a retired Navy officer. His mother, Diane, worked as a librarian. On paper, the Reed family was stable. But neighbors recalled a different story. "He was always alone," said one former classmate. "Never came to parties. Never talked much. Just watched. Reed graduated from high school with average grades. He attended a community college briefly, then dropped out. He worked odd jobs, warehouse loader, delivery driver, janitor, but never stayed long. His social media presence was minimal. No Facebook. No Instagram. Just a Reddit account under the alias CanyonWatcher88. That account would later become critical. Forensic analyst Dana Kim dug into Reed's online activity. Using metadata and IP tracing, she uncovered a disturbing pattern. Reed had posted hundreds of comments across true crime forums, incel communities, and surveillance subreddits. One post, dated July 3, 2013, read, "She walks like she owns the street. But she doesn't know who's watching." Another, on August 21, one day before Vanessa's disappearance, read, "Tomorrow she learns what silence feels like." Kim traced the IP to Reed's Echo Park apartment. The timestamps matched his known movements. He was planning this, she said. He wasn't just fantasizing. He was rehearsing. FBI profiler Dr. Marcus Langston was brought in to assess Reed's psychological profile. Langston had worked cases from Boston to Seattle, specializing in obsessive-compulsive offenders with stalking tendencies. Reed fits the mold of a control-driven predator, Langston said. He fixated on Vanessa not because she wronged him, but because she represented something he couldn't have: confidence, independence, visibility. Langston noted Reed's pattern of escalation. Initial contact through real estate inquiry. Uninvited appearances at open houses. Surveillance of Vanessa's apartment. Digital tracking through spoofed GPS apps. Final abduction and murder. He didn't snap, Langston said. He built a narrative where she became the villain. And in his mind, punishing her restored his power. Inside Reed's motel room, investigators found a leather-bound journal. The pages were filled with erratic handwriting, sketches, and disturbing entries. One page read, "She smiled at me. But it wasn't real. I saw through it." Another, "They all think they're safe. But the canyon has eyes." The final entry, dated August 22, 2013, 5:12 p.m., read, "It's done. She's quiet now." Ortiz stared at the journal. This wasn't just about Vanessa, he said. This was about every woman who ever ignored him. As the investigation deepened, Ortiz began cross-referencing Reed's movements with other cold cases in California. One stood out: the 2011 disappearance of Rachel Monroe, a 29-year-old yoga instructor from Santa Barbara. Rachel had vanished after teaching a class near Ealing's Park. Her car was found abandoned. No suspects. No leads. Ortiz pulled cell tower data from that day. Reed's phone pinged near Ealing's Park at 6:42 p.m., the same time Rachel was last seen. Another case, 2012, Pasadena. Emily Tran, 31, a freelance photographer, found dead in her apartment. Cause of death: blunt force trauma. No forced entry. No suspects. Reed had delivered furniture to her building 2 weeks prior. Ortiz compiled the data. "He's not just a killer," he said. "He's a serial predator." Langston identified a psychological pattern. Reed targeted women who were visible, confident, and independent. He inserted himself into their lives through service roles: client, delivery, maintenance, then watched, waited, and struck. He needed proximity, Langston said. He needed to feel like he was part of their world before he destroyed it. Reed's victims shared traits. Ages 28 to 35. Professional careers. Lived alone. Active on social media. No prior connection to Reed beyond surface-level contact. He didn't want relationships, Langston said. He wanted control. And when he couldn't have it, he erased them. On October 3rd, Reed requested to speak with Ortiz. Inside the interrogation room, he sat with his hands folded. She wasn't supposed to fight, he said. Ortiz leaned forward. What do you mean? Reed stared at the wall. She was supposed to understand. Understand what? Reed didn't answer. Ortiz placed a photo of Vanessa on the table. She deserved to live. Reed blinked. She was too loud. Ortiz stood up. You're going away forever. Reed smiled faintly. I already did. As the case moved toward trial, prosecutors prepared to present Reed not just as a murderer, but as a serial predator whose crimes spanned years and counties. The evidence was overwhelming. DNA match from Vanessa's car. Fingerprint under the driver's seat. Flash drive with surveillance files. Journal entries detailing the murder. Video of Vanessa bound in her car. Cell tower data placing Reed at multiple crime scenes. But Reed's silence remained. Langston warned, he may never confess. Because in his mind, he didn't do anything wrong. He corrected a world that ignored him. But what FBI agents discovered next defied all logic, because buried inside one final encrypted file on Reed's flash drive was a name no one expected, and a location that would lead investigators to a second grave. What they found there would rewrite everything they thought they knew about Travis Reed. And it would prove that Vanessa Cole was not his first victim. By October 5, 2013, the Laurel Canyon murders had become more than a local tragedy, it was now a national crisis. The arrest of Travis Reed had exposed a chilling reality. Vanessa Cole was not his only victim. Investigators believed Reed had operated across California for years, targeting women who fit a specific profile. And now, with new evidence pointing to additional graves, the manhunt was no longer about one killer, it was about uncovering the full scope of his crimes. Detective Raymond Ortiz stood in the war room at LAPD's Hollywood Division. The walls were covered in maps, timelines, and victim profiles. Vanessa's photo was now joined by two others, Rachel Monroe, missing from Santa Barbara in 2011, and Emily Tran, murdered in Pasadena in 2012. Ortiz stared at the board. We're chasing a ghost, he said. But now we know his name. The LAPD partnered with the FBI, California State Police, and local departments from Santa Barbara, Pasadena, and Riverside. A task force was formed, codename Operation Canyon Watch. Ortiz was appointed lead investigator. FBI Special Agent Dana Whitaker joined as federal liaison. Whitaker had worked serial predator cases in Miami and Chicago. She brought behavioral analysts, digital forensics experts, and satellite surveillance resources. We're not just hunting a man, she said. We're hunting his footprint. The task force divided into 3 units. Victim Recovery Unit, focused on locating potential burial sites. Digital Forensics Team, analyzing Reed's devices, online activity, and GPS history. Behavioral Analysis Division, profiling Reed's patterns, triggers, and escalation timeline. Each unit operated around the clock. Every lead was chased. Every tip was logged. The pressure was mounting. Inside the FBI's Los Angeles field office, forensic analyst Dr. Priya Desai examined Reed's flash drive. She decrypted the final folder labeled Final Gift. Inside were coordinates, 6 sets, each pointing to remote areas across California. The first led to a ravine near Topanga Canyon. On October 7th, cadaver dogs uncovered skeletal remains. Dental records confirmed the identity, Rachel Monroe. The second led to a dry creek bed in Altadena. On October 9th, partial remains were recovered. DNA matched Emily Tran. The third led to a construction site in Riverside. No remains were found, but a buried duffel bag contained women's clothing, duct tape, and a journal entry, "She was too loud." Desai stared at the screen. "He cataloged them," she said, "like trophies." As the discoveries mounted, public fear exploded. News outlets ran hourly updates. Serial killer in California, how many victims? The hashtag #CanyonKiller trended nationwide. Women across Los Angeles changed routines. Self-defense classes surged. Pepper spray sales tripled. Real estate firms issued new safety protocols. GPS tracking apps became standard. Mayor Antonio Delgado held a press conference. "We will not rest until every victim is found and every question answered." Los Angeles stands united against this evil. But behind the scenes, panic was growing. Reporters camped outside LAPD headquarters. True crime podcasts dissected every detail. Reddit threads speculated on Reed's motives, methods, and victim count. The story was everywhere. Ortiz received over 2,000 tips in 1 week. Most were noise. Some were gold. One tip came from a woman named Claire Jennings, a real estate agent in San Diego. She had shown a property to Reed in 2010. "He was strange," she said. "Asked if I lived alone. Took photos without permission." Ortiz pulled property records. Reed had signed in under a false name, Thomas R. The date matched the disappearance of another woman, Jessica Lane, 30, last seen in San Diego in 2010. The case had gone cold. Now it was reopened. On October 12th, the FBI released a public bulletin. Travis Reed is linked to multiple homicides across California. If you had contact with him, report immediately. The White House issued a statement of support. Victim advocacy groups mobilized. Candlelight vigils were held in Santa Barbara, Pasadena, and Los Angeles. Vanessa Cole's memorial was expanded. Her foundation raised over $500,000 in 1 week. Her story had become a symbol, not just of tragedy, but of resilience. Ortiz and Whitaker focused on the remaining coordinates. The fourth led to a hiking trail near Big Bear Lake. On October 14th, search teams found a shallow grave. Inside were the remains of Jessica Lane. The fifth led to a desert lot near Palm Springs. Nothing was found, but tire tracks matched Reed's vehicle. The sixth led to a wooded area near Lake Arrowhead. On October 16th, a buried box was recovered. Inside were photos, women, smiling, unaware. One was Vanessa. Another was Rachel. A third was unidentified. Ortiz stared at the photo. "We're missing someone," he said. Facial recognition matched the third woman to a missing persons report from 2009. Name, Kimberly Dawson. Age, 32. Occupation, school counselor. Last seen in Ventura County. Her case had never been solved. Now it was part of the Laurel Canyon murders. Cliffhanger for retention. But what investigators uncovered next would send shockwaves through the entire country, because buried inside Reed's encrypted email archive was a message sent to an unknown recipient, containing details of a seventh victim and a plan for an eighth. What they found in that final message would expose a network of obsession, manipulation, and horror that stretched far beyond California. And it would prove that Travis Reed was not working alone. By October 5, 2013, the Laurel Canyon murders had become more than a local tragedy, it was now a national crisis. The arrest of Travis Reed had exposed a chilling reality. Vanessa Cole was not his only victim. Investigators believed Reed had operated across California for years, targeting women who fit a specific profile. And now, with new evidence pointing to additional graves, the manhunt was no longer about one killer, it was about uncovering the full scope of his crimes. Detective Raymond Ortiz stood in the war room at LAPD's Hollywood Division. The walls were covered in maps, timelines, and victim profiles. Vanessa's photo was now joined by two others, Rachel Monroe, missing from Santa Barbara in 2011, and Emily Tran, murdered in Pasadena in 2012. Ortiz stared at the board. "We're chasing a ghost," he said. "But now we know his name." The LAPD partnered with the FBI, California State Police, and local departments from Santa Barbara, Pasadena, and Riverside. A task force was formed, codename Operation Canyon Watch. Ortiz was appointed lead investigator. FBI Special Agent Dana Whitaker joined as federal liaison. Whitaker had worked serial predator cases in Miami and Chicago. She brought behavioral analysts, digital forensics experts, and satellite surveillance resources. "We're not just hunting a man," she said. "We're hunting his footprint." The task force divided into 3 units. Victim Recovery Unit, focused on locating potential burial sites. Digital Forensics Team, analyzing Reed's devices, online activity, and GPS history. Behavioral Analysis Division, profiling Reed's patterns, triggers, and escalation timeline. Each unit operated around the clock. Every lead was chased. Every tip was logged. The pressure was mounting. Inside the FBI's Los Angeles field office, forensic analyst Dr. Priya Desai examined Reed's flash drive. She decrypted the final folder labeled "Final Gift." Inside were coordinates, 6 sets, each pointing to remote areas across California. The first led to a ravine near Topanga Canyon. On October 7th, cadaver dogs uncovered skeletal remains. Dental records confirmed the identity, Rachel Monroe. The second led to a dry creek bed in Altadena. On October 9th, partial remains were recovered. DNA matched Emily Tran. The third led to a construction site in Riverside. No remains were found, but a buried duffel bag contained women's clothing, duct tape, and a journal entry, "She was too loud." Desai stared at the screen. "He cataloged them," she said. "Like trophies." As the discoveries mounted, public fear exploded. News outlets ran hourly updates. "Serial killer in California, how many victims?" The hashtag Canyon Killer trended nationwide. Women across Los Angeles changed routines. Self-defense classes surged. Pepper spray sales tripled. Real estate firms issued new safety protocols. GPS tracking apps became standard. Mayor Antonio Delgado held a press conference. "We will not rest until every victim is found and every question answered." Los Angeles stands united against this evil. But behind the scenes, panic was growing. Reporters camped outside LAPD headquarters. True crime podcasts dissected every detail. Reddit threads speculated on Reed's motives, methods, and victim count. The story was everywhere. Ortiz received over 2,000 tips in 1 week. Most were noise. Some were gold. One tip came from a woman named Claire Jennings, a real estate agent in San Diego. She had shown a property to Reed in 2010. "He was strange," she said. "Asked if I lived alone. Took photos without permission." Ortiz pulled property records. Reed had signed in under a false name, Thomas R. The date matched the disappearance of another woman, Jessica Lane, 30, last seen in San Diego in 2010. The case had gone cold. Now it was reopened. On October 12, the FBI released a public bulletin. Travis Reed is linked to multiple homicides across California. If you had contact with him, report immediately. The White House issued a statement of support. Victim advocacy groups mobilized. Candlelight vigils were held in Santa Barbara, Pasadena, and Los Angeles. Vanessa Cole's memorial was expanded. Her foundation raised over $500,000 in 1 week. Her story had become a symbol, not just of tragedy, but of resilience. Ortiz and Whitaker focused on the remaining coordinates. The fourth led to a hiking trail near Big Bear Lake. On October 14, search teams found a shallow grave. Inside were the remains of Jessica Lane. The fifth led to a desert lot near Palm Springs. Nothing was found, but tire tracks matched Reed's vehicle. The sixth led to a wooded area near Lake Arrowhead. On October 16, a buried box was recovered. Inside were photos, women, smiling, unaware. One was Vanessa. Another was Rachel. A third was unidentified. Ortiz stared at the photo. "We're missing someone," he said. Facial recognition matched the third woman to a missing persons report from 2009. Name, Kimberly Dawson. Age, 32. Occupation, school counselor. Last seen in Ventura County. Her case had never been solved. Now it was part of the Laurel Canyon murders. Cliffhanger for retention. But what investigators uncovered next would send shockwaves through the entire country, because buried inside Reed's encrypted email archive was a message sent to an unknown recipient, containing details of a seventh victim and a plan for an eighth. What they found in that final message would expose a network of obsession, manipulation, and horror that stretched far beyond California. And it would prove that Travis Reed was not working alone. January 6, 2014. The Los Angeles County Superior Court was packed. Reporters lined the marble steps. Victim families clutched tissues and each other. Inside courtroom 7B, the trial of Travis Reed and Jacob Rayner was about to begin. The Laurel Canyon murders had gripped the nation for 5 months. Now, the country would watch justice unfold. Detective Raymond Ortiz sat in the front row, flanked by FBI Special Agent Dana Whitaker and Prosecutor Elena Chavez. Behind them, Linda and Charles Cole held hands. Marcus Cole sat beside Alyssa Grant, his face pale but focused. The courtroom buzzed with tension. The judge entered. "All rise." The trial had begun. Elena Chavez stood before the jury. Her voice was steady, her tone deliberate. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case is not just about murder. It's about manipulation, obsession, and a system of predation that targeted innocent women across California. Travis Reed and Jacob Rayner didn't just take lives, they built a network designed to erase them." She outlined the evidence: DNA, fingerprints, surveillance files, journal entries, encrypted messages, and the bodies of 6 confirmed victims. She promised to prove premeditation, coordination, and intent. The defense offered no opening statement. Reed and Rayner sat silently, their attorneys whispering occasionally. The jury watched them closely. The prosecution called its first witness, forensic analyst Dana Kim. She described the flash drive recovered from Reed's motel room. It contained surveillance files, encrypted maps, and a video of Vanessa Cole bound in her car. The metadata confirmed Reed created and accessed these files. Next came Dr. Elena Ramirez, the medical examiner. She detailed the autopsy findings. Vanessa Cole suffered blunt force trauma. Her injuries were consistent with restraint and prolonged psychological stress. Time of death was estimated between 3 o'clock and 5 p.m. on August 22. Detective Ortiz took the stand next. He walked the jury through the investigation, from the missing persons report to the discovery of Vanessa's body, the arrest of Reed, and the uncovering of Rayner's role. He didn't act alone, Ortiz said. Rayner selected the victims. Reed executed the plan. FBI agent Whitaker testified about the encrypted message. It was sent from Reed to Rayner. It outlined a plan for a future murder. The recipient's device was traced to Rayner's apartment. Psychologist Dr. Marcus Langston explained the behavioral profile. Reed exhibited control-driven predation. Rayner exhibited grooming behavior. Together, they formed a predator-victim dynamic that escalated into serial homicide. On January 14th, the families of the victims were invited to speak. Linda Cole stood first. Her voice trembled. "Vanessa was our daughter. She was kind, strong, and full of life. She didn't deserve this. No one does." Charles Cole followed. He didn't cry. He didn't shake. He simply said, "You stole her. But you didn't break us." Marcus Cole spoke last. "She was my sister. My best friend. I still hear her laugh. I still see her smile. And I will never forgive you." The families of Rachel Monroe, Emily Tran, Jessica Lane, Kimberly Dawson, and Melissa Grant echoed similar pain. Each story was different. Each wound was permanent. The courtroom was silent. The defense attempted to argue diminished capacity. Reed's attorney claimed he was manipulated by Rayner, mentally unstable, and incapable of understanding the consequences of his actions. Rayner's attorney argued lack of direct involvement. "He didn't kill anyone," he said. "He didn't touch a single victim." But the prosecution dismantled both arguments. Chavez presented journal entries, emails, and surveillance footage showing Rayner's active role in planning. She showed Reed's detailed execution of each murder. "They were partners," she said. "And they knew exactly what they were doing." On January 20th, the jury began deliberations. They reviewed evidence, testimonies, and timelines. They asked for clarification on the encrypted message and the behavioral profile. After 3 days, they returned. The courtroom held its breath. The forepersons stood. "We, the jury, find Travis Reed guilty on all counts. We, the jury, find Jacob Rayner guilty on all counts." On January 24th, Judge Evelyn Marks delivered the sentence. "Travis Reed, you are hereby sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jacob Rayner, you are hereby sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole." The courtroom erupted in emotion. Linda Cole sobbed. Charles held her. Marcus stared at Reed, then turned away. Ortiz closed his notebook. Whitaker exhaled. Justice had been served. Los Angeles responded with unity. Vigils were held. Murals were painted. The Vanessa Cole Foundation expanded to include safety training for women across all industries. The city passed new legislation requiring background checks for service professionals entering private homes. Real estate firms adopted mandatory safety protocols. The case became a national model for stalking prevention and digital forensics, foreshadowing the final chapter. But even as the verdict was read, one question remained. How many more are out there? Because inside Rayner's manifesto was a list, 10 cities, 10 targets, 10 plans. And investigators feared the network wasn't just 2 men. It was bigger. It was hidden. And it was still out there. February 2nd, 2014. 1 week after the sentencing of Travis Reed and Jacob Rayner, the city of Los Angeles was quiet, but not healed. The Laurel Canyon murders had left scars that would never fade. 6 women were gone. One had survived. And an entire community had been forced to confront the reality that evil had lived among them, hidden in plain sight. Detective Raymond Ortiz sat in his office, staring at the case board. The photos of Vanessa Cole, Rachel Monroe, Emily Tran, Jessica Lane, Kimberly Dawson, and Melissa Grant were still pinned to the wall. Their smiles, frozen in time, reminded him of the cost of silence. Ortiz had worked homicide for over 2 decades. He'd seen gang wars, domestic violence, and drug-related killings. But this case was different. It wasn't about impulse. It was about calculation. It was about obsession. And it was about a system that allowed predators to operate undetected. In the weeks following the trial, Los Angeles mobilized. Candlelight vigils were held across the city. Murals of Vanessa Cole appeared in West Hollywood, Silver Lake, and Laurel Canyon. Her face became a symbol of strength, resilience, and justice. The Vanessa Cole Foundation expanded its mission. Originally focused on real estate safety, it now offered training for nurses, teachers, counselors, and freelancers, anyone whose work involved one-on-one contact with strangers. GPS tracking devices, panic alert systems, and digital safety protocols became standard. Local universities launched awareness campaigns. Know the Signs posters appeared in dorms, libraries, and coffee shops. Self-defense classes filled up. Therapy groups formed for women who had experienced stalking, harassment, or assault. The city passed the Cole Act, legislation requiring background checks for service professionals entering private residences. Real estate firms, delivery companies, and maintenance services were now held to stricter standards. Mayor Antonio Delgado declared February 22 Vanessa Cole Day, honoring her life and legacy. Inside the LAPD, changes were swift. The department created a dedicated stalking and obsession crimes unit, led by Ortiz. The unit focused on early intervention, digital surveillance tracking, and behavioral profiling. FBI agent Dana Whitaker returned to Washington, D.C., where she helped launch a federal initiative, Project Silent Watch. The program trained agents to identify control-driven predators before escalation. It used AI to scan forums, encrypted messages, and metadata for red flags. Dr. Marcus Langston published a paper titled Predator Partnerships: The Psychology of Coordinated Obsession. It became required reading at Quantico. The case was studied nationwide. Police departments in Chicago, Miami, Seattle, and Boston adopted similar reforms. The Laurel Canyon murders had become a blueprint for prevention. Melissa Grant, the nurse from Glendale who had narrowly escaped becoming the 9th victim, chose to speak publicly. On March 1, she appeared on national television. "I knew something was wrong," she said. "I felt watched. I felt followed. But I didn't have proof. I didn't have a voice." Her interview went viral. Thousands of women shared similar stories. The hashtag I was watched trended for weeks. Melissa became an advocate. She joined the Vanessa Cole Foundation, spoke at universities, and testified before Congress. "I survived," she said. "But survival isn't enough. We need change." Linda and Charles Cole returned to Pasadena. Their flower shop reopened. Linda placed a photo of Vanessa near the register. Customers left notes, candles, and prayers. Charles built a bench in their backyard. He carved Vanessa's name into the wood. "She loved sunsets," he said. "So now she has one." Marcus Cole moved to Los Angeles. He joined the foundation, worked with Ortiz's unit, and spoke at vigils. "I lost my sister," he said. "But I found purpose." Alyssa Grant continued her work in fashion. She launched a clothing line called Quiet Strength, inspired by Vanessa's resilience. Proceeds went to the foundation. Each family found their own way to heal, but none forgot. On April 10, 2014, Ortiz received a call from a hiker near Lake Arrowhead. A shallow grave had been discovered. Inside were the remains of a woman. Dental records confirmed her identity, Lauren Bishop, 30, missing since 2008. She had never been linked to Reed or Rayner. Until now. Inside the grave was a note: she was the first. Ortiz stared at the paper. "We missed her," he said. "She was the beginning." Lauren's name was added to the memorial. Her family was notified. Her story was told. The Laurel Canyon murders changed Los Angeles. They changed California. They changed America. They exposed the danger of silence. They revealed the power of obsession. And they proved that evil can hide behind the most innocent faces. But they also showed something else. That justice is possible. That voices matter. And that one woman's fight can spark a movement. Thank you for joining us in seeking justice for Vanessa Cole in this Los Angeles, 2013 case that shook America. If this story moved you and you believe every American victim deserves their truth told, subscribe to Cold Case, True Crime Stories for more cases that demand justice. What shocked you most about how evil can hide in plain sight? Share your thoughts below. See you in our next investigation, where we'll continue exposing the dark secrets hidden in America's heartland.